AITA for ending things after my boyfriend chose his ex over me? I, 27F, ended my 2-year relationship with my boyfriend Daniel, 29M, 3 weeks ago, and now half of our mutual friends think I overreacted. Daniel thinks I destroyed something beautiful over insecurity. I think he chose his ex over me, just not in the obvious way people expect. For context, Daniel and I met at work. We didn't start dating immediately, we were friends first. He was funny, attentive, and ridiculously patient. The kind of guy who remembered small details. If I mentioned once that I liked a certain snack, he'd bring it a week later. When we started dating, he told me about his ex, Emily. They had been together for 4 years. Lived together for 1 year. According to him, they broke up because they grew apart. No cheating. No explosive fights. Just distance. I didn't love that they ended on good terms, but I told myself that was mature. Healthy, even. At the beginning of our relationship, he reassured me constantly. She's in the past. You're completely different. I've never felt this stable before. And, honestly, I believed him. For the first year, things were good. Really good. We moved in together after 14 months. We talked about future plans, not marriage yet, but someday. He met my parents. I met his. Emily's name would occasionally come up in stories, but never in a way that felt threatening. It was always neutral. A memory. A footnote. Then, about 8 months ago, something shifted. He mentioned casually that Emily had moved back to our city. I remember feeling my stomach drop in a way I couldn't explain. He said it like it didn't matter. Oh, yeah, she got a job here. We ran into each other at a coffee shop. It was chill. I asked how long they talked. Like 10 minutes. I asked if they exchanged numbers. Still had each other's numbers. That part bothered me. But I didn't want to be that girlfriend. I told myself I trusted him. After that, her name started coming up more often. She's dating someone new, I think. She asked if I still had her old books. Small things. Harmless on the surface. Then one night, I woke up around 2 a.m. and noticed he wasn't in bed. I found him on the couch on his phone. When I asked what he was doing, he said he couldn't sleep. His phone screen dimmed a little too fast. I didn't accuse him of anything, but I felt it. That slow, creeping awareness that something wasn't aligned. Over the next few weeks, I noticed patterns. He smiled at his phone more. He angled the screen away slightly. He'd step into the kitchen to take calls. When I asked who it was, he'd say, "Just Emily." She needed advice. Apparently, she was having trouble with her new boyfriend. That's when I finally said it. "Daniel, are you sure this is appropriate?" He looked almost offended. "She doesn't have many people here. We were together for 4 years. I can't just pretend she doesn't exist." I said I wasn't asking him to pretend she didn't exist. I was asking where the boundary was. He sighed. "You don't trust me." That phrase. I hated it, because it shifts the focus. Instead of, "Is this appropriate?" it becomes, "Why are you insecure?" I dropped it, but it kept happening. He canceled one of our dinner plans because Emily was having a breakdown. He said she and her boyfriend had a huge fight and she didn't feel safe driving home. So he drove to her place at 9 p.m. and didn't come back until almost midnight. When he got home, I asked him calmly what happened. She just needed someone to talk to. I asked if he went inside. Yes. Alone? Yes. He ran a hand through his hair. Nothing happened. That wasn't even my first question. But the fact that he jumped straight to that told me everything. After that, I tried to establish a clear boundary. I told him I wasn't comfortable with late-night emotional support visits. I wasn't comfortable with him being her primary support system, especially when she had a boyfriend. He said I was making him choose between being a decent human and being my partner. I said those two things shouldn't conflict. That's when he said something that stuck with me. "You're asking me to abandon someone I cared about for years." I responded quietly, "I'm asking you to prioritize the person you're with now." He didn't answer that. The real breaking point happened 2 months ago. We were at a mutual friend's birthday party. I didn't know Emily would be there. Apparently, She had become part of that social circle again. When she walked in, Daniel's entire energy shifted. It was subtle, but I know him. He straightened up, smiled wider. His eyes followed her around the room. She hugged him. Long, too long. I stood there awkwardly until he remembered to introduce me. Oh, this is Emma. Just Emma. Not my girlfriend. Not we live together. Just Emma. Emily smiled at me politely. The kind of smile that feels like assessment. Throughout the night, Daniel kept gravitating toward her, laughing at her jokes, checking in on her, asking if she was okay. At one point, I watched them standing close, heads tilted toward each other, speaking in that low, intimate tone people use when they share history. I felt invisible. I went outside to get air. One of our friends came out after me and said, "You okay? That must be weird." Weird. That word validated something in me. I went back inside and told Daniel I wanted to leave. He said, "Already? We just got here." I said I didn't feel comfortable. He looked annoyed. "Don't do this." Do what? Have feelings? We stayed another hour because he insisted. During that hour, he barely spoke to me. On the drive home, I asked him directly, "If she asked you to try again, what would you say?" He didn't answer immediately. That silence was louder than anything. Finally, he said, "That's hypothetical." I repeated the question. He said, "I don't know." And that was it. Not "I'd say no." Not "I'm with you." Not "That's ridiculous." Just "I don't know." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just felt something close quietly inside me. Over the next few weeks, I noticed he seemed distracted, restless, thoughtful in a way that didn't include me. One night, I asked him point blank, "Are you still in love with her?" He hesitated again, and I realized something important. It wasn't about whether he cheated. It wasn't about whether he physically crossed a line. It was about emotional priority. And I wasn't it. The final moment came when Emily apparently broke up with her boyfriend. Daniel told me she was really struggling. Then he said, "I'm going to check on her tonight." I asked, "Does she not have anyone else?" He said, "Not like me." Not like me. That phrase echoed. I said, "If you walk out that door to comfort your ex instead of staying here and fixing what's breaking between us, you're making your choice." He stared at me, and then he grabbed his keys. That's when I said, "If you go, don't come back." He paused. Just for a second, but not long enough. He left. I packed his things the next morning. When he came back around 7 a.m., I told him I was done. He said I was being dramatic, that nothing physical happened, that he just didn't want to abandon her when she was vulnerable. I told him I wasn't asking him to abandon her. I was asking him to choose me. And he didn't. Now our friends are split. Some say I was right, that emotional cheating is still cheating. Others say I forced an unfair ultimatum and pushed him away. He says I made him choose when he didn't need to. But I think he had already chosen. So, AITA? Update. After the final fight, it was my home. I had made the decision. Daniel had crossed a boundary I couldn't accept. So yes, I packed his things and told him he couldn't come back. He moved out quietly, dragging his bags down the stairs, muttering something about how it was a mistake. I didn't argue. I didn't even respond. Because, truthfully, this relationship had ended in my heart long before that night. I had known for months that his priorities were elsewhere. I had known he would choose Emily, if given the chance. The final fight just confirmed it. That knowledge didn't make the pain disappear, but it gave me clarity that I hadn't had in months. I was done settling for half effort, for a partner whose emotional loyalty was elsewhere. The next morning, I started my routine as I always had, but now without him. I made coffee for myself, went to work, came home and cooked dinner for myself, and even started journaling again, something I had abandoned during our relationship because he never seemed to care about my small victories or little passions. Daniel didn't contact me for a while. I think he assumed that if he stayed quiet, I would cave, that I would let him back in. But I didn't budge. I didn't respond to his absence with insecurity. I didn't chase. I just kept moving forward with my life, with my friends, with routines that reminded me I could be happy without him. 2 weeks later, out of the blue, I got a message. If you're in your right mind, maybe we can talk and solve this. I stared at it. My phone felt heavy in my hand. I could feel my blood pressure rise. The dismissiveness. The arrogance. Like he thought everything could be patched up with a casual conversation, as if I was overreacting, as if my boundaries didn't matter, as if our months of tension and emotional neglect could be erased with a single text. I ignored it. Completely. Like it never happened. Instead, I went out with my friend group more. We laughed. We stayed up late talking. We went to brunches, movies, small concerts. I felt myself growing lighter with every passing day. I remembered what it was like to feel fun and freedom without the constant weight of Daniel's indecision and emotional distance. I started to breathe again. A few days later, we went to a party. It was lively, loud, and exactly what I needed. We danced, we talked, we joked, we drank too much, and for a few hours, Daniel didn't even exist in my mind. Then, as conversations drifted, someone mentioned they had seen Daniel and Emily at a cafe, laughing together, coffee in hand, like nothing had ever happened. It stung. Not because I regretted the breakup. Oh no, I didn't regret it at all. It stung because I realized it had taken me far too long to fully see what I had known all along. Daniel would always be pulled toward Emily when given a chance. My sadness wasn't for him or for what I lost. It was for the late recognition of the truth I had avoided facing for months. After the party, everyone left except my friend Sophie and me. She called her cousin to pick her up, and she insisted I come along since it was on the way. I sat in the car with Sophie's cousin, Jake, and we drove through the quiet streets. After a few minutes, Sophie pulled over to buy something, leaving Jake and me alone in the car. He looked at me with gentle curiosity. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked. I hesitated, tried to smile. "Nothing," I said. But he could see right through it. Without a word, Jake got out of the car and returned a minute later with a chocolate bar.
"Here," he said.
"This might help." I took it, a small smile forming despite myself. Something warm bloomed in my chest, not from the chocolate, but from the kindness behind it. It was a reminder that people could be thoughtful, that not every interaction had strings attached. Sophie came back, and we continued our ride. Before dropping me off, Jake gave me a small nod. A simple, wordless promise. It will get better. I felt good. Better than good. I felt hopeful. A few days later, I ran into Jake again at a cafe. We talked for hours, laughing, sharing small stories, enjoying the simple pleasure of each other's company. Over time, our connection grew. He was thoughtful, attentive, romantic in little ways that made me feel cherished rather than tested. Eventually, we started dating. Being with Jake felt easy, comfortable, exciting in ways I hadn't realized I was missing. I could be myself without hesitation, and he made me feel seen. Meanwhile, life kept moving. One day, my friend Katie, who had started dating Daniel's ex-best friend, shared some gossip. She mentioned that Emily and Daniel's breakup story wasn't what I had been told. They hadn't ended things because of distance. Emily had cheated on Daniel, left him, and moved to another state with her new boyfriend. I laughed. Not out of malice, but out of sheer vindication. I had known, deep down, that Emily was the kind of person who would always use Daniel as a safety net. And now, the universe was proving me right. He had been set aside before he even realized it. I felt a strange peace. Watching Daniel and Emily's tangled story unravel in reality only reinforced what I already knew. I had walked away at the right time. I had prioritized myself, embraced my own life, and allowed someone better, someone genuine like Jake, to enter my world.
Update.
Life with Jake kept getting better. Every day felt lighter than the last. We would walk together holding hands, sometimes in silence, just enjoying the comfort of being next to someone who made me feel safe. Other times, our conversations would stretch for hours, touching on everything from childhood memories to dreams we hadn't dared to say aloud. He listened. He laughed at my bad jokes. He held my gaze, and made me feel seen in a way Daniel never had. It was the kind of easy, effortless happiness I hadn't realized I was missing for so long. And just when I had settled into this peace, Daniel started appearing again. Not in person, but in my life, in the form of messages. The first few were dismissive, trying to gaslight the past. "We can walk past this and be whole again. You have to understand, you were becoming more aggressive and controlling." I was just helping a friend, nothing happened. "We're just friends." I read them, then went on with my day. I didn't respond. Why would I? He was trying to rewrite history, pretending the months of emotional neglect, the late-night escapades to Emily, the heartbreak, all of it didn't exist. But then the messages escalated. The tone shifted slightly, more apologetic, though still with that dismissive undertone. "I know how it looked, and I'm sorry I made you feel that way. But I was just helping a friend, I swear." I ignored it. Life with Jake didn't leave room for Daniel's half-hearted remorse. I went out, hung out with friends, walked with Jake, laughed until my cheeks hurt, and continued reclaiming myself. Then, slowly, the apologies became real. Longer. More sincere. He admitted faults, acknowledged what he had done.
He said things like,
"I was selfish.
"I see that now.
I made you feel like you were second, and I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have let Emily back into my life like that. I was wrong, and I understand if you never forgive me." I read these messages and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not longing, just recognition. Recognition that Daniel had finally realized the consequences of his actions, but too late. I already knew why he was back. Something had gone wrong between him and Emily, and now he was trying to seek comfort from me. He deserved it. Whatever had happened, it was on him. Still, he wouldn't stop messaging. And eventually, I decided that if closure was going to happen, I had to do it myself. I scheduled a time to meet him one last time. Of course, he thought it was a chance to reconcile, to plead his case, to win me back. He had no idea what I knew. Before the meeting, I asked my friend group if they knew anything about Daniel and Emily. One friend told me the truth. Emily had friend-zoned him. She had used him as a comfort after a breakup and had no intention of keeping him around beyond that. He had been nothing more than a convenience, and she had made him believe he was important when she only wanted someone to fill the gaps in her own life. Knowing this gave me a renewed sense of clarity and, honestly, a little satisfaction. I met Daniel at the agreed-upon spot. The tension was immediate, but I stayed calm. We talked. He apologized profusely, laced with guilt and desperation. But I had already prepared myself. "I am not stupid," I told him. "I am not someone's backup plan. I chose myself, and I won't let you manipulate me again." I told him about Jake, about how happy I was. The shock on his face was unmistakable. He had counted on me still being available, still vulnerable, still longing for him. He had miscalculated. "You deserved everything that's happening to you," I said. "This is the last time we speak." He stammered out apologies, tried to explain, begged even. But I didn't flinch. I didn't look back. I walked away. From that day forward, I hung out with Jake. I loved his presence, his thoughtfulness, his consistency. Unlike Daniel, he didn't disappear when things got complicated. He didn't make excuses. He simply cared. Daniel finally stopped contacting me. Eventually, I found out through friends that he and Emily had started dating again. But it didn't bother me. None of it was my business. What mattered was that I no longer had to deal with him. He had faded from my life, exactly as it should be. Later, I learned Emily had been trying to make her ex jealous using Daniel. But when the ex didn't react, didn't return, Emily dumped Daniel without a second thought. It was poetic, almost satisfying in a quiet way. The person who had used him had finally discarded him, and there was nothing I had to do with it. Even when Daniel tried to contact me again, this time using a different number, I refused every time. I didn't even hesitate. He was gone from my life for good. Now, Jake has moved in with me. We have our routines, our inside jokes, our lazy Sunday mornings and quiet evenings. Life is peaceful, happy, and full of love. The kind of love that doesn't demand explanations, doesn't require apologies, and never leaves you questioning your worth. I look back at Daniel not with anger, but with relief. Relief that I recognized the truth early enough to save myself. Relief that I found someone who sees me, who values me, who matches the care and attention I give. And for the first time in years, I feel whole.